I think our biggest concern is the lack of education. I really have to start there. It's a lack of education. Our educational system is not designed to teach people about money. So we have to start from the beginning, and that would be it, right? So if we can get people to educate themselves, really, because you're not going to get it in school. When you have financial education, you're not as hesitant to invest, right?
Yeah.
So real estate falls, of course, in that investment category. You know, there's only really 4 assets that you can invest in, primarily. So real estate's one. Commodities, which, you know, most people don't have money to invest in gold and silver. You have big businesses. You have stocks and bonds. We stay away from stocks and bonds because we see it as being risky and somewhat of a gamble. So we stick with real estate because it's easy to learn about. It's tangible. And we do business too. So to answer your question, I think it's really the lack of education. And so when you're not knowledgeable about something, you're fearful of it. And when you're fearful, you don't want to move forward. And so when you look at real estate, you hear so much about it.
And people do have fear.
Yeah.
I mean, the fear thing is real because people allow the fear to stop them and just, they put the brakes on. They don't even try to, even with education. So they don't even, the fear doesn't allow them to even seek the education. Like they bought into something over the course of their lifetime that made them feel like it's so risky or so dangerous, or, you know, they knew one person one time that had a property and had a bad tenant or something. When we hear these stories like, I don't want to repair toilets, or I don't want anybody calling me in the middle of the night. And generally most of the stuff we hear, and we're 30-year real estate investors with rental properties and many, many tenants, are things we haven't even experienced. So we're like, we do it for 30 years, and you've never done it, but you're bringing up things that either you heard someone say or something that's really like stuck in your craw that you believe is going to happen if you did an investment. And so the second part of the education piece is the most expensive real estate is the 6 inches between your ears. And that's the place that people don't invest. That 6 inches of real estate. You do not invest in educating yourself about really the facts. And I think one of the things that always has driven both of us is that we like the facts. We like the truth. So whenever we start digging into something, even if we heard some things from someone that seems credible or something like that, we immediately investigate. We like to read something. We like to go and check it out.
You read?
Yeah. So you know, I mean, so we do that because we just don't, you know, that's our thing. We like to educate ourselves and educate the expensive real estate between the 2 ears.
And you know, I think it's not even a nicety now. It is absolutely a necessity, because the average, I think maybe 70 to 80, maybe even 90% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck.
No doubt.
And those that are heading toward retirement, they're sort of relying on something that may or may not be there when they retire. And 401k plan is one of those things. Even if it's there, it may not be enough to take you through your retirement years.
And Social Security.
And Social Security.
They believe that Social Security is going to, you know, supplement their income, and they're going to live in this house that they paid off, and their Social Security and their 401k, which both, by the way, might be gone, you know, because you don't know what's going to happen with the 401k, the stock market at any given point. And you really don't know what's going to happen with, you know, just currently with what's going on with our government and everything that's happening, and where we are with the funds that should be in our Social Security system.
And, you know, and that's interesting too, because I remember years ago when my father was working, he was on the pension plan. And so corporations were responsible for your retirement. And that's what a lot of workers relied on and depended on. And it was called defined benefits is what it was. And so when you retire, you had this pension plan, and it was going to be enough money to take you through your retirement years and beyond. You know, when you passed away, there was money there, whatever. And then I think it was in 1974, they decided, we don't want to do this anymore, right? So we're going to make it the employee's responsibility to prepare themselves for retirement. Right. And so that was called then defined contribution. And so you were responsible for contributing to this thing called a 401k plan, which was in the beginning was called ERISA, which was Employee Retirement Income Security Act. So this was this big thing. And I remember when I got out of college and I got my first job, and they're like, here's all the stuff for the 401k plan. You need to pick what it is you want to invest in.
And you never knew what to pick. So what you would do is sit down with some person and they'll tell you, these are the safe, this is S&P 500 and do these. And hey, and don't forget, you're in it for the long haul.
Right. And don't forget,
It'll go
this
up
is
and
for your
down,
retirement
but
years.
Yeah, this is, but don't panic. Now I got to tell a story here. And I won't mention any names to protect the individuals. But there was one big investment firm that early on in our years, I think we had not been married that many years. And, between my CPA and some other people that used to advise me, because, I owned a construction company, I said, I'm going to invest a lot of these dollars that I'm making and put it in, a stock market. So I can say this, it was Edward Jones. I won't say the individual, but that's where I had my money. So put my funds in there. And this was probably in either the late 90s or the early 2000 collapse, because there's been many collapses, but whatever it was, there was many thousands of dollars in there, and the market started doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and I would get statements, and at the end of the month I look at the statement, I was like, what the world is going on? It was like 10,000 less, 20,000 less.
Don't worry about it.
So
Don't worry.
Of course I'm calling.
Just hang in there.
And my advisor at the time, and of course he was into that end, and his wife was my banker. So they were kind of both, on one hand I was doing all my banking with this bank, and on the other hand I'm doing the investing part with her husband. And so we go in and I start calling, because these are people got to know pretty well over the years. And I'm like, look, hey, what's going on? What's going on? And I'm not getting any calls back, So finally I go to his office. And so we go in, I sit down, and he's like, well, don't panic. He said, you're young. He said, the stock market.
You have more money to lose.
You're in this for the long run. Now, I'm a business owner. I'm thinking to myself, dude, I'm going to punch you in the throat. Okay, because that doesn't float. Okay, so then I asked the question, well, where's your money? Because I think it's a valid question. I'm like, I'm losing tens of thousands of dollars. You haven't said anything about trade, sell, move. You're just letting it dwindle. And that's when, he stuttered, didn't really give me a good answer. And that's basically when I said, cash it all out.
Yeah.
I'll take my own money.
Yeah.
And from this point forward, I will invest my own cash my way. And now, I'm not saying that people haven't done great in the stock market, because we have friends and know people that have. But it just wasn't a place I was willing to continue to take that risk. Because at the point we would retire, which would be the kind of the age that we are now, if we were, with 2 or 3 collapses that have happened since then, we'll be ready to go and start cruising around the world, and he'll be telling me about the long haul.
Well, that's our concern, right? Is that those who invest in the 401k plan may wake up one day and half of their portfolio is gone.
When you need it the most.
When you need it the most.
Yeah.
And so even if you want to stick with it, you're going to need to supplement it. And so
Absolutely.
in comes real estate.